Hi guys. I'm coming to you today with a prepared video. Not a live today because I'm traveling. Actually, when you see this, if you watch it on Thursday, I'm going to be in Manchester for my annual retreat. Not really a retreat, but let's call it a retreat. And today is the last night of the retreat. And I'll be thinking of you guys. And let's move. Okay, so come to sitting in a cross-legged position. And you can do this in any way, shape, or form. Cross-legged does not mean that we're sitting in a lotus. It can mean a very open cross-legged position. And we'll do both sides, so we'll take it easy. So we're just going to come and find our breath and our sits bones as always. So as we're sitting here on a blanket, on a block might be a little rough on the sitting bones, but on something that will elevate you up and allow for your pelvis to come into the anterior tilt, the forward tilt. So let me just see if my microphone is all good here. So yeah, we're sitting and we're finding or feeling both sitting bones on the blanket, on the floor, wherever you're sitting. And we're looking really for an even imprint, indentation of those sits bones, because it's going to allow for us, although we're sitting in a kind of an asymmetrical shape, it's allowing for our pelvis to be grounded and aligned and stable and parallel with each other. Let's take just 3 breaths and see if you can send the breath right away down into the pelvis and allowing for the pelvic muscles to expand a little bit. And on the exhale, to contract a little bit. That's kind of the natural rhythm of our muscles with breath in. They're lengthening, they're letting go, if you will. And then on the exhale, and especially the core muscles, right? The diaphragm, the abdominals, pelvic floor. And just one more breath. And just notice if you're lifting your shoulders when you breathe in. It's very common because the lungs also attach up here to the first rib. We can breathe in and pull our shoulders up. It doesn't mean we should be doing that. It's more like for in a pinch moment when you need to do this. So we're just trying to focus our breath into the pelvis and into our belly. And then we're starting with our tiny little pelvic tilts. So we're letting our pelvis rock back. I really like the idea of pushing the blanket forward with your pelvis and then pulling the blanket behind you with your pelvis. So take your time. This is very deep stuff. This is very precise work. And the deeper and slower we can go, in my experience, the more we can retain it with our body, with our muscles, with our nervous system. And just this tiny little tilt forward and backward is huge. You wouldn't believe it. It's huge. So little tilts forward and backward, and they're not big. One more time, and as we rock back into our posterior tilt, we're going to let the kidneys fall back and then let your spine round forward. And we're going to use our arms. We're going to push our arms forward. Breathing here. Can you widen the shoulder blades on the back? And you can even think that pinky finger is reaching a little bit more out. It's not that we're turning the hand, but just press through the pinky finger to get the tip of the shoulder blade to come around the rib cage. And then start with your pelvis. Sit bones pull back. And then squeeze your shoulders together. Keep the arms really close by your side. It's not a big move. It's not really big in the arms. It's really big in the pelvis, coming from the posterior tilt into the anterior tilt. And then keep your kidneys back. Squeeze your shoulders and just lift your chin a little bit up. And if you don't feel your stomach here, bring the diaphragm and the kidneys a little more back. Start with your pelvis. This is weird because we want to drop our head first. But can I move from my pelvis first, rounding my spine, pushing wide through the shoulder blades, look down at your pelvis, back up the skull a little bit. This kind of keeping the head as the last vertebra in alignment with our spine and not just a drop. And then pull the sits bones back. Kidneys back, diaphragm back. Squeeze your shoulders and strongly take those kidneys back. So it is a back bend, right? We're back bending, but we're not back hyperbending or hyperextending through our lumbar spine or even our thoracic spine. Depending on where you have your own personal mobility, pull the feet a little more down into the floor, turn on your glutes, support your lumbar with your glutes. Feel that actually might even be more sustainable. Turn your head and look a little bit side to side. So by squeezing our shoulders together, many things that we do with our shoulders actually are locking down on our neck. Because the muscles connect. Let's do one more cat spine, where the neck muscles assist a lot, obviously the positioning of the head in space. But if the shoulders are compromised, the neck muscles are even more compromised, I would say. Sits bones pull back, push your feet down into the floor, lift your heart, kidneys back, diaphragm back. Maybe you can even look up toward the ceiling, but you're keeping your stomach really engaged. And then release that. Just feel. Where's the breath? Is it a little bit wider? Maybe a little bit deeper? Let's do the other side. And maybe you can tell here. So this is, we don't ever want to push anything. This is my tighter side, but this is my injured side. So just wanted to show you that. It's not about pushing your knees down to the floor. When my right foot is in front, I have more range of motion, but I'm not going to push for range of motion. Okay. So let's actually do some circles here. We haven't done those hip circles in a while, I feel. So we're not having our evenly grounded pelvis. We're going to rock onto the right sits bone and then pull the right sits bone back for our forward bend. And then we're going to rock over to the left. And then the left sits bone pushes down, the right sits bone lifts up. So the rotation is happening in the hip on the legs. It's not so much rotation yet on our rib cage. And we've been working on the obliques a lot for the last couple of weeks. And hopefully you had some insights there or some moments of, oh wow, that's what the obliques feel like. Yay. Very good. So we're going to pull the sits bone back. Keep your kidneys back. So I'll show this from the side. I'm not moving my spine here, right? My spine is slightly curved, slightly rounded as I am just rocking. So I'm holding, this is actually a ton of obliques as I'm rocking side to side and doing a forward bend. And as I roll back, it's not a back bend. It's actually a roll down, right? My spine is still flexed. And then we're going to reverse this. The slower you go, the more you can think of pushing the earth, your pillow, your mat, your floor, the harder it should be getting, the more muscular engagement should be showing up. This is rehab for the pelvis, honestly. There's so much disconnect for people in their pelvises, pelvi, and their pelvis. Very good. And then let's just come. You can make this a wider situation now. You can even make this a straight leg position with a straddle position. Let's come to a forward bend. So we're going to pull the sits bones back. You're going to put your hands on the floor and you're going to engage your feet down into the mat. Your butt should be turning on, and then take your kidneys and your diaphragm back and breathe. And then we're going to back up the skull just a little bit, just to make sure we have an even curve from crown of the head toward your tailbone, actually. We don't want that kink in the neck that is so prevalent with our computer culture. And then where's the moment of engagement down of your legs into the floor where you could potentially pick up your hands? But it's not picking up the hands and arching the back. Arching the back here would be really your spinal bones, your vertebrae, wedging and holding you, and it would not be a muscular thing, right? So kind of becoming aware of where we're using joints to support us rather than having muscle support us. Our joints should be moving. Our muscles should be either pulling our bones or should be supporting, stabilizing up. Push down into your legs to come up. I'm going to pull the sits bones back. So it says it's fairly small tilt in the pelvis. Back up the kidneys and the diaphragm, lengthening your spine, elongate. You want to pull, in a way, your vertebrae away from each other. If you do this with your own volition, with your own, well, muscular effort, it is never a bad thing. I wouldn't want anybody else pull me. That's it. And you're going to, and feel how your stomach has to show up here if you back up the skull just a little bit. Push your feet down into the floor, not your knees, right? The knees can be even floating, and you push your feet and feel how that turns on your buttocks. Push down into your legs to come up. And then undo the cross. Take your hands behind you. My thumbs are facing out to the side, my fingers facing back. I'm going to bend my elbows and squeeze my shoulder blades together. So any position here, close with your feet, far away from your feet. I'm going to stick my butt out and I'm going to drop my kidneys. And you should be feeling probably this here in the front of the chest. This is kind of that conundrum that we're working on. You know, how do I open the chest without hyperextending my spine, which is generally the cue that we're getting from the stretching community. You know, lift your heart. Not saying you should be walking around with a dropped heart all the time, but lifting the heart for most of us is not the extension that we really, really need. So you're going to squeeze the shoulders together. You're going to pull your hands into the floor, dropping the diaphragm back, and then just see if you can lift your pelvis up. And then let's turn the head here again and look side to side. And I want to see if you can pull your hands away from each other They're not moving, but it should be firing up your shoulder muscles. Grab on with your hands to the floor a lot. If you need to lower your pelvis down, you lower your pelvis down, right? But see if you can hold it a little bit and breathe into kind of the intensity of this. And let's lower it all the way down. Take a little moment. Feel your shoulders. Feel maybe your neck and head. We'll do this one more time. You put your hands behind you, thumbs out, fingertips face back. We're gonna find a squeezing of the shoulder blades. Yes, I'm trying to open the front of my shoulder here, absolutely. But I'm also gonna bend my elbows. So I'm not hyperextending, because otherwise you'd be really feeling this in your elbow. Sits bones go away, 6 o'clock, kidneys drop. Can you feel how that closes your shoulders back off, right? So there's your personal challenge. Can I drop my kidneys and squeeze my shoulder blades and bend my elbows and engage my hand? And then lift your pelvis up and breathe. And depending on where you are in your practice, you can try and lift the pelvis a little higher. Use your feet pulling into the floor. Keep bending your elbows. And breathe wide. Up into your chest, down into the pelvis. Turn your head, looking side to side. Bending your elbows. Bend your elbows. You might not even know how to bend your elbows in this position, but check out your elbows. And then release. And remove your blanket and roll onto your back. Take a moment. You might not even need the blanket at first. Straighten your legs and just kind of check out where your pelvis is. Where's your spine? Let everything relax for a moment. And just do a little check-in, right? It's always so important to do a little, where am I? And then bend your knees. You might want to bring back the pillow behind your head. And this could be a very slim pillow. What we're really looking out for is the rib cage being able to be down on the floor. If your rib cage is puffed up to the air, you're not going to be able to access your abdominals the way we want you to, or I want you to. Okay, so 3 little pelvic tilts. We've done them many already today, but we're going to do 2 more. Arching and curling the pelvis, thinking about that soup bowl, rocking the bowl forward and backward. Even movement on both sides, sits bones dropping away from your rib cage, away from your head. And then, so we're keeping this there, and then I want you to take your hands to your ribs. And this is something that came up this week, as it always does. When I say, oh, can you feel your abdominals? And people are like, I don't know. And that's a big red flag for me. Like, you can't feel your abdominals, all the intensity of the things that we're doing in here. So I came back to the image of knitting your ribs together. And I know some people have issues with that image, but it's a very loose knit. You can even say, I'm crocheting. You don't have to knit. So you put your hands on either side of your rib cage and feel maybe your ribs are kind of a little bit puffed up here. And especially with all the oblique work that we've been doing, the obliques are the muscles that are going to allow for our ribs to be able to crochet together. Big crochets, nothing, right? No tight weave or anything. So taking a breath in into the rib cage, wide, feel your hands move away from each other. And then on the exhale, you're going to soften with your hands. You're going to suggest your ribs a little bit together. Don't worry what the shoulders are doing. They might be doing weird things, but we're going to just say, I'm going to bring my ribs towards each other. And then feel if you can have a little more of a sensation in your low belly, or in the whole belly, actually. Widen the ribs, and then exhale. And you're going to suggest your ribs together with your hands. And then we'll do this one more time. And exhale. This is a really important ability to control our ribs here, because that's what's going to help us control our abdominals, and they help us control what's happening in our back body as well. So you are very welcome. Let's actually take the hands down by your side. Let's lift one leg into table. Sits bones, kidneys heavy. The other leg into the table. And just, feel what's going on here. And then you might want to take your hands and suggest your ribs together and feel what's happening here. I can feel that my work is actually increasing quite a bit. Breathing in, let the ribs come a little bit away from each other. And then on the exhale, I'm suggesting my ribs together. Breathing in. Exhale, suggest your ribs back together. And then slowly keep those ribs together, lower one foot and lower the other foot. And take a moment. I can feel this could up our abdominal game quite a bit. Let's do this again. Nice deep breath in. You can already suggest the ribs together and then pick up your other foot. Breathing here. Inhale and exhale. Sits bones stay heavy. Kidneys are heavy. And then letting that diaphragm and the low floating ribs come a little bit more down. One more breath. Push your feet into a wall that's right underneath your feet. Not really, but you pretend. And then you're going to crochet your ribs. One more breath together. Keep your kidneys really heavy. Like those lower ribs, those deep abdominals, and then slowly lower one foot and the other. Okay. Give the legs a little rest. Arms are by your side. We're going to pick up our head, tiny paper lift, and then dropping the chin, looking down towards the pelvis, and slowly lower that down. Nothing else is moving, just your head is floating and nodding towards your sternum. This feels really nice. If you can access the front well, you're going to literally traction, pull the vertebrae away from each other in the back. This might be still a back sensation, but learn how to distinguish that it's not the back working, but the back having to elongate. We're actually stretching in a good way, lengthening muscles that are perpetually shortened. And lower down. Good. All right, we're going to add on, obviously. So you're going to lift your head and then take your hands to your rib cage. You're going to lift your heart, but you're going to suggest your ribs together. Lengthening the spine, dropping the diaphragm down. So in this curl, there is a slight down in the rib cage. I'm not trying to jam the ribs down to lift my head really, really high. I'm going to soften them. I'm going to gently print them into the sand and then slowly release. Can you keep your ribs slightly knitted together? Let's do it again. Breathing in, exhale, knitting the ribs, forehead lifts up, chin drops down.
And let's lift the heart up and elongate your spine. Keep your pelvis. Look at your pubic bone. You can think elven ears, maybe put your hands to your ears, or keep your hands at your rib cage and find that slowly release. Keep your ribs as knitted as they were in the up when you release down. So hugging those ribs together is really crucial, and it'll be crucial later on even more so. Can we add both in, both together? So let's start with the legs. You're going to lift one leg, sits bones stay heavy, and the other leg. Notice how the ribs pop up here. Lift your head, lift your heart, and knit the ribs. Breathing here. Use your hands to suggest the ribs together. Push your feet into the wall, lengthen your spine, Spock ears, elven ears, and very softly knitted ribs. I can feel there's a big shake coming, and when I just even more so slightly allow for that diaphragm to fall back in space into the mat. It's gently printing a little bit more into the mat, no jamming. Slowly lower one foot, lower the other foot, keep the ribs, and then lower everything down. Shall we do one more? We should do one more. Let's lift the head first. You're going to lift your head, so tiny paper lift, and then dropping the chin, looking down. Ribs come together. There's our rectus abdominis and our obliques. And then pick up one foot, pick up the other foot, and get that diaphragm to come down. We've done the serape abdominals, right? Where we're saying, can I bring my ribs back into that blanket? Can I bring my ribs back into the mat and allow for your hands to help you here? No shoulders. Observe if you want to hold this thing with your shoulders, lengthening the back of your skull, back and the back of your neck, and then lower one foot and lower the other foot and release. Very good. Excellent. Okay, let's lift, bring the arms down by your side. I hope we can remember that feeling of abdominals, of knitting the ribs. And we're just going to reach the legs up, any amount of straight legs. And we're just going to challenge this a little bit more. Optionally, you can keep your head down. We're going to slowly lower the right leg halfway, maybe down. Maybe lift your head, soften the ribs, and then reach both feet away from you. Turn on your quads, breathing here. No craziness in the feet or anything. We're just going to keep our hip bones hugging together, our ribs softly crocheting together, and we're finding length, opposition in the crown of the head and the heels. Slowly switch your legs. Can you keep your ribs? If your head is down, this is not easier. You have to, in a way, work much harder because you don't have a counterweight, but the neck might be the holding back, right, for most of us. And you can kind of play around with it. When we lift the head up, look at your pelvis, reach through your heels, lengthen the line without hyperextending your knees. Bring both legs up, bend your knees, lower down, and wowza. Okay, very good. Let's walk your feet close together and then cross the right leg over the left leg. We have still our alignment 6 o'clock with the pelvis, and we're going to drop the kidneys and flex the right foot. Press the right leg into the left leg and squeeze the inner thighs together. Push your left foot into the floor, pull the upper arms into the floor. And if you have a big pillow, you might want to remove that to not cramp our neck here too much. And we're going to go ahead and lift the pelvis up. So single leg bridging right away, kind of mean actually. Sits bones heavy, kidneys heavy, diaphragm heavy. Can you drop the bra strap area and pull the shoulders a little bit more down into the floor, breathing. Press your left big toe, knit your ribs together. Should allow for the rib cage to drop a little bit more down into the earth. And then reach the right leg up to the ceiling again. There's no hyperextension. There's a energetic reach through your right heel. Breathing here. It's a slight sassy left hip here without letting that left knee go out to the left. Cross the right leg over the left again. Squeeze your inner thighs. And reach the right leg back up. Drop your sits bones. Drop your kidneys. Drop the diaphragm. Pull a little bit with your upper arm bones down into the floor. Cross your leg one more time. Breathing here, and then reach that right leg one more time up, and then slowly lower. You can brush the inner thighs together, lower the right heel down onto the floor, flex the foot, no straight knee, please. Breathe here. Let the kidneys drop a little more. Turn on your butt a little more. You're pulling your thigh bone into your hip socket and your heel down into the floor. Turn your right leg in, breathe, 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 and lower down. And take a moment. Oh, I hope you can feel a little difference from side to side. Bend your knees, feet close together. Cross your left leg over your right leg. Flex the foot right away. This is really nice to stabilize through the knee. You don't want to push your knee in any position anyway, but you want to have it strongly supported. Pulling the sits bones to the earth, kidneys and diaphragm heavy. Pull the heel toward the right heel toward your pelvis and lift up. Squeeze your inner thighs. Big squeeze. Internal rotation, flexing both feet really, right? That right foot pushes and the left foot pulls here. Breathe. Diaphragm is heavy, knit your ribs. Can we not push our rib cage up to the ceiling, but soften it down to the floor as much as possible? How much can you drop your ribs here, really, right? And then straighten that left leg up, and you're gonna reach the heel. Energetically, reach through your hamstrings, use your quads to straighten that leg. Breathe here, let the left kidney drop a little bit, but not the left pelvic half. Squeeze and cross the left leg. Squeeze the inner thighs. Big internal rotation in both legs. Reach that left heel back up. Drop the kidneys. And cross it again. How much more can you drop your kidneys? And engage a little bit through the upper arm bones. Last time, reaching that left heel up. Right hip is slightly sassy. Right big toe is super heavy. Slowly. Slowly pull your left heel down to the floor. Keep that knee quite bent. Keep your kidneys. Drop your diaphragm more. How heavy can your ribs be without really dropping your pelvis too much down or tucking, right? Sits bones are aiming to the ground. Pull with your shoulders and lower down and release. Feel that. Hopefully we got a little bit more length, a little bit more engagement. Especially in the glutes, right? All right, so let's go ahead and turn onto your side. I like to double my blanket here. I'm going to be on my right side. And I'm bending both knees. And I'm just going to lift the left leg up. And you could even find a little bit of pressure here with your left hand down into the left leg. And let's just do some big circles here with the left leg. No pressure, or with a little bit of pressure. Notice if you're pulling the shoulder too far down, that's definitely not what we want. But, you know, just knowing we can be our own resistance. And just big circles. And let's see if we can increase the back a little bit, kind of finding the buttocks, but we're keeping our ribs slightly crocheted together, right? Loose crochet. And feel, experience our need or our desire to arch the back, to take the leg more back, right? This not a bad thing, but for the purpose of strength and support in our pelvis and lumbar, we want that to be as little as we can. Let's reverse that circle. You should be starting to feel your buttocks turning on, especially on the back part, right? Your glutes being your hip extensors, they're extending your hip. This is why the spine is not a hip extensor. I'm being facetious. One more big circle. See how far you can go back without arching your back. And it doesn't have to be much. And especially if we have some trauma, injury, overstretching happen in the past, in the front of our hip, you are very strongly encouraged. Let's actually do this. You're going to pull the heel back, but you're going to turn on. I want you to think I'm holding back with the front of my hip, my leg to go too far back. So we're going to push the heel back, but resist, and then bring the knee forward. And then push the heel back, and you're resisting. It's kind of, there is a wall and you can't go any further, but you're still pushing. That's the same idea, right? You're creating your own resistance, or the wall is creating your resistance. And push back. Resist with the front and push back. Resist with the front. One more time, push back. And then put your foot down. And we're in this weird little shape. We're going to push off your toes, bring your pelvis forward, and you're going to go roll halfway onto your back and then push with your toes, use your butt, and you're going to roll back onto your side. So it's almost like I'm rolling onto my back. My left foot is down, and then my toes push to bring me back. One more time. Roll, resist the rolling down, and then push one more time. And then lie on your back. Maybe you undo your pillow. Just check this out. Nice, huh? Okie doke. Other side. I'll flip around. Both knees bent. Sits bones back. Kidneys back. Soften your diaphragm. And then we'll pick up the top leg. And again, this is kind of, I can add a little push, but I just want to show this. Do not pull your shoulder down. You can pull the shoulder, the upper arm bone back into the shoulder blade to engage the back of the shoulder, but do not pull down. Pulling the shoulders down is such a weird cue. We're kind of overdoing it, and you're going to push. And again, you don't even need your hand. You can think, oh, somebody's pushing my leg down, and I'm going to push it up. And you can feel the same amount of work. kind of the cool brain thing with the body. Okay, top hip stays. You can use your top hand to support you here, and we're going to do our circles. Now, you go big, keep the knee bent. The more bent your knee is, the bigger your circle can be. However, we don't want to circle by rolling, right? That's the last part of the exercise. We're going to pull the thigh bone back, keep your kidneys back, lift the leg, relaxing the toes, the shin, and the knee, and just feel my butt is turning, has to turn on if my butt is my hip extensor. And breathe. Can you put your hand on your butt and check in and see if you can feel it. Breathe. And some people might feel there is a little bit of a stretching going on in their quad. Again, it's not a bad thing. If you hold a lot of stretching practice in your hip, I want you to not go as far back as you can, right? You're going to hold back. We're going to make a muscle. I'm jokingly, and I'm not really joking, saying these days, if you had a stretching practice for 30 years, you've done your job, right? You did it for 3 lifetimes probably. So now we're going to hold our stuff together. Reverse your circle. And another thing, the older we get, the less our body is capable of stretching. That's what I just see every day. We can do it when we're young. And now we can be smart. And 2 more big circles. Keep the kidneys back. And another big circle. And then knee and shin and foot are aligned. I'm going to pull my leg back, but I'm really turning on my quad here. Either saying I'm making this a muscle, or I'm pulling my thigh bone forward as I'm pushing my foot back. No movement, but work. And then you're going to hinge and you're going to pull the foot back, but you're going to push your knee forward at the same time. And push. And push. So it's a lot of hamstrings. We're going to explore this in a little bit, in a kind of a little bit of a meaner way. Kidneys stay back, knitting your ribs, soften. Helps to put the hand there. And we do one more. And then you're going to put your toes down. So we're going to roll now. The whole body rolls back. There's strong engagement. It's not a twist. I'm not opening up this arm to stretch my shoulder. And then you're going to come back into your side body. And I'm going to take the foot down. So there's a reach. There's a glute engagement. I'm going to control myself down by setting my foot down. My pelvis opens and rotates on the left leg, on the bottom leg, and then come back forward, because the top leg and the top pelvis are very much staying the same, if you will. You could push your bottom leg down into the floor a little bit, come back up, and push the bottom leg down. Toes are assisting your descent. And one more time, descend, not descent, right? English is so hard sometimes. And then come back to your side and then roll onto your back. Again, take your pillow away and just check it out. That should feel quite nice. I mean, we could be done here, but we obviously are not done here. You're going to slowly roll off to your side and then come back, come to hands and knees. You're welcome to put a blanket in the middle of your mat. We might need it in a sec. You might need it, or you might want it in a second. And you're going to come just to hands and knees. So toes are tucked. You're going to send your sits bones up, and then you're going to knit your ribs together. And I hope we can see that. Like I can be in this hanging situation. Most people hang even in their shoulders, and then they're like, oh, this sucks. We're going to push the earth away and trying to widen our shoulder blades. Pull your hands away from each other. Turn on the outer deltoid here, medial deltoid, and lift your kidneys up. That is abdominal work. That's that knitting, right, that we're looking for. Pick up your knees. Look down between your thumbs. Pick up your knees just a tiny bit. So here we are. Can you knit your ribs a little more together? Pull the hands apart without moving them. Widen your shoulder blades. Lift your kidneys and diaphragm. Turn your head side to side. Breathe. Are the sits bones still up to the ceiling? And my ribs still close together? You can let your head drop a little bit. I feel like sometimes our head is a little too far lifted here and takes us out of our abdominals. And then slowly release and take a little break.
So this is basically the amount, the effort, the amount of work we need now if we're not on the floor. Okay, so we're going to come to a prone position. What might be very helpful for most of us is to have a pillow right where the pubic bone and the hip bones are. You can make a little pillow with your hands and pick up your kidneys right away. And they are kind of already picked up, probably, but you're going to make another effort. Widen the shoulder blades, soften the shoulders, and then pick up your left leg. But you're also going to pick up your left kidney. And then lower the left toes back down. It's not big. Because we're not using our spine as hip extensors, we're going to pick up the right leg and lower that down. Pick up your left leg. On the exhale, lifting the kidneys. And lower down. And pick up your right leg. No shoulders. And release. We're going to pick up our left leg. And we're going to bend the left knee. Lift up your head. Look to the left. Keep your kidneys lifted. How high can you lift the knee, but you're still working on the front of your hip to not stretch? You might, this is now hamstring ability, right? And then extend the leg slowly. Keep the thigh bone lifted. Keep your kidneys lifted, knitting the ribs, and release. Pick up your right leg, toes, both hip bones evenly heavy. Really make a point here. We don't want to lift the right hip up to lift the right leg. And you're going to start to bend that knee, no shoulders, turn your head to the right. Looking over your right shoulder, knitting the ribs. Make them light. Don't lift them, but make them light on the floor. And extend. Turn your head to the left. Lift your left knee, toes, and bend. Lift the diaphragm. I can see myself here. I want to really pull a little bit more down with your shoulders, elbows into the earth, not down, down, but elbows into the earth. And extend. And look right. Pick up right foot. Turn, lift, reach. Heel towards the pelvis. Push the forearms down, but lift your kidneys up. And lower everything down. Okay. So you can do this. Keep doing this if you liked it.
but I'm gonna make it a little harder. You're going to come to your forearms, tuck your toes under right away. So I guess you can see here, right? There's no blanket and we're much higher up off the ground. So you have to, there's nothing that holds you here. So we're going to lift the kidneys up. We're going to widen the shoulder blades, push into the ground, breathing here. You're going to not pick up your left knee. I mean, you shouldn't be able to. You're going to bend your left knee though. You're going to make your left knee light. You're not jamming it into the floor because anybody could do this. You're going to just make it light and feel your hamstrings and glutes. And then just see if you can drop your kidneys down a little bit more, slide your shoulders down the back, and now pretend to pick up your left knee. Lift your heart, strong knitting of obliques. And then extend the left leg. Look down between your elbows, push wide through the shoulder blades. You're going to bend the right knee. Think I want to lift it. You're going to drop your pelvis a little bit down, but you're strongly holding back of that dropping. Lift your kidneys, lift your heart, lift your chin. So you're in a weird extension, spine extension, and hip extension situation. Take a moment. There's a lot going on. Let's do this one more time. Less is more. Don't go big. You got to, this is literally rewiring what we perceive as extension. The extension is not only the lumbar or only the neck. It's so much more. Okay, toes are tucked. If you need a pillow, if you want a pillow, please bring a pillow underneath your pelvis. You're going to push wide through the shoulder blades, lift your sits bones, lift your kidneys. Yes, the sits bones will drop a little bit as I lift my kidneys, but that's not a bad thing. I just don't want to tuck my pelvis because that gives me too much rounding in my upper back and my head automatically gets pushed down to the floor. Then extension is like yuck. Okay, so wide through the shoulder blades. Pick up your left toes, keep your kidneys lifted. Push the left knee a little bit down into the floor, but at the same time, think, oh, you want to lift it up. And then look over your left shoulder, push. Now lift your heart, lift your chin, look up and forward slightly, look over your right shoulder, lift both rib cages up, both sides of your rib cage, and lower your head down. So you're making a little circle with your head, and then pick up your your right toes, push the knee down, but pick it up at the same time. Breathing, look over your right shoulder, wide shoulder blades, knit your ribs, big time. Look up, look forward, keep breathing. Look over your left shoulder, keep that knee bent, maybe bend it a tiny bit more without dropping your low belly down, and drop, roll onto your back. Take a moment. Widen the collarbones. Widen the kidneys, the legs. Thank you so much for showing up, for your work, for your commitment, for allowing me to do what I love most, for allowing me to be traveling right now and doing things that are really close to my heart as well. Obviously, teaching movement is really close to my heart.
But going to California once a year is very important to me. And thank you for sticking with me and holding the space. I appreciate you. And I'll see you soon.